And with this, a very nice welcome again to this space. We are very happy to have you here. Today is a special masterclass as we are weaving in between the worlds, as I was saying before. We have with us Traian, who is a dear friend. We've been knowing each other for the last, I would say, 10 years. So I had the privilege of seeing him going through different parts of his journey and also going deeper into the practices that he's up to. And what we're about to do now is actually open up a space for learning, storytelling, connecting with each other. And we invited Traian in, and with all his courage, he said yes to a very vulnerable invitation to share from his own personal practices, what it means for him to live in a more regenerative way, as well as, connecting the dots between the systemic elements, the personal elements. But maybe a big disclaimer to make is that this conversation is not meant to preach to anyone. It's very contextual, right? It happens in a particular geography, in a particular socio-economical background, and we are aware of that. People here in the audience have different levels of experience, and we want to honor it. Here, as I said before, we have people from the Abundance Fellowship and the larger collective, people who are actively working on their relationship with money, economy, how do we regenerate different aspects of our livelihoods. So this is the larger container we are a part of. And how this is going to work is that we are going to open the floor and invite Traian to share his story with us in the next, let's say, 30 minutes or so. And as you listen in, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat or maybe take a mental note, as for the second half of the conversation, we'll open up the space for more Q&A and, like dialogue around the themes that he's about to unpack. So welcome again. Feel at home in this space. And
thank you, Corina.
Yeah, let's open it up. Thank you, Traian.
Yeah, so I need to start with a disclaimer that it's the first time I'm speaking about this topic. It's not my usual topic. I usually speak about education. So thank you for being here and giving me the chance to reflect together with you on this particular journey that I'm on. So let me share my screen and start the presentation. This is a story about my unlearning journey around money. Here you can see me in this picture. This is not my car. I'm in Mexico, in San Cristobal de las Casas. This is one of the places that most inspired me in my journey. This is my car. I didn't have a car while I was living in the city, but when I moved to a remote village, I needed one, so I borrowed one from a friend, and then ended up paying in a year 1,000 euros for it. For context, 1,000 euros is like an average monthly salary with taxes in Romania. Many people in my village drive nicer cars than this. This is the house where I live. It's rather small, 4 meters by 7 meters. These are a group of friends. We've been to Bulgaria, to the seaside, and we were invited, and it was not the first time. We were invited to join, but not necessarily pay the full amount as everybody else. We were invited to come and pay as much as we could for the rent. And as I was saying, it wasn't the first time we were free riding this group in such a way. And these are my friends from the training world. We are peers in this. We are about the same age. And when we get together, we like to share about how much we're charging, how much we're making. And I'm making about at least 10 times less than any of the people you see here. So I want to tell you the story of how I got to this place. And I hope you'll see that it's not incompetence, it's not laziness, it's not bad luck. It's just a choice. And I'd like to somehow try to explain this choice, how this choice came about, and open up for conversation around such ideas. So this is me as a teenager. I was an urban teenager. I had this dream of making 1 million, having sports car and having a house by a lake and doing wakeboarding with my friends and all that. So I was all in into the American dream. I went to the Polytechnic University of Bucharest to study electrical engineering. Then it so happened that I was disillusioned by the system there, and I somehow got into the student activism. A few years later, I was coordinating a project in 17 universities. This was our message that we, the students, are like horses with blinders. And this one says that Ceausescu, which was the dictator in communist times, is still here with us. He teaches in the lecture room next door. And the message of this was that we were experiencing our education as a dictatorship of professors and administrators. We got an award for this particular project, but actually nothing changed in the higher education in Romania. And a few of us said, hey, let's make our own university. And a few years later, we were renting this house somewhere in the middle of Bucharest. We were renovating it with lots of volunteers. And a few years later, we got this dream learning environment. At some point, I think we were 170 learners in this tribe, each one of them doing their own thing, creating their own learning path. So nothing standardized. And we have an environment full of resources, courses, workshops, business incubator, all kinds of meetings and learning days. And we had fun, I think. And we learned a lot about ourselves and the world, I guess. And in our best days, it was a very lively place, full of emotions and joy. And we got a lot of awards and scholarships and media appearances, and we were invited to speak in various places far beyond Bucharest, like Brazil and Indonesia. And in all this, up to this point, I realized that I was, what's my mission in life? And my mission was to bring about learning environments that look like a skate park more than a classroom. First, where people are self-directed in their own individual learning path. And second, the whole environment is self-organized, not organized by somebody. So I call this, I imagine myself dedicating my life to this transition from institutional learning to emergent learning. And at one point, I think it was in the 7th year of the alternative university, it was the camp that was starting this 7th year. I had sort of a moment where I decided I need to leave the team and go travel around the world and write a book. On one side, I got the feeling, I was very enthusiastic at that camp, that it seemed that the university had a life of its own and didn't necessarily need me anymore. And I was thrilled by this. And on the other side, I was a little bit burned out and out of ideas of how to make this university financially stable. We were struggling, we struggled with this like throughout its existence. And so I did. 1 year later, I left in this journey. I visited such places as Swaraj University in India, a university dedicated to unlearning. I visited rural universities in Mexico. I got to this group in Brazil that they were just starting an alternative university, and got all the way to this very remote college in California. They have an isolation policy, and they made an exception for me, so I can join them. All in all, it's been like 636 days of non-stop traveling to 19 countries. I only traveled forward, never went back to Romania, and visited more than 100 projects. And of course, as you might expect, I learned a lot about education and learning, and I had lots of ideas. But most of all, I think this journey disrupted the way I saw myself and my life. And to the topic, I want to share 3 of these disruptions that the journey made in my life. One of them is the way I saw this relationship between money and time. This is me on a beach in Thailand where I spent 3 weeks. We lived in a very basic bungalow with no electricity. And my task while there was to work on my crowdfunding campaign because I was running out of money. And in the evening, I would charge my laptop when they were started the generator for 3 hours each evening. And during the morning, I would work until the battery ran out. And then we had the whole day to explore the island and enjoy. And I realized that I just don't need anything more than this. I need a very shabby house, some fruits to eat, a meaningful thing to work on, and nature. And that's all. And I realized that I've been living in the city for my whole life and never considered living in somewhere else. But actually, I was flourishing in such a place. Then after I left the island, I went to Chiang Mai, which is the paradise for digital nomads. But I found a place in Chiang Mai, this room, that is very far away from where all the digital nomads go in East Chiang Mai. And I rented this room for 50 euros a month. It was the most uncomfortable bed that I ever slept in. This is where I would eat every day. And this is the coffee shop where I went each day to work on the crowdfunding campaign. And I was doing this like for 40 days in a repeating cycle. Go to my room, work a little bit, go to sleep, wake up, work a little bit in the room, go eat, go back to the coffee shop. 40 days of bliss and focus. And in this process, I had to find my voice to ask people to donate to my crowdfunding campaign. It was a very tough personal development challenge to ask for money for such a thing. And I couldn't find a place where I could feel okay about doing this. And it was like an internal process. And one thing that was very interesting throughout this journey, including Thailand, was that I had at that point, I didn't have a recurring income. I had a fixed amount in my account, and each day the amount would go down. And I would calculate, it's like, if I spent on this at this rate, how many days of travel I have left? And it was a 2-year practice of calculating how many days of travels do I have left if I spend at this rate. And what I did, I squeezed every last day out of this travel because it always made sense for me to get more days of travel rather than comforts, a better bed, better food, or things like this. So this was one sort of disruption in my life that I got to practice this thing. The second was that we were visiting the Ben & Jerry's company in Vermont with a group of social entrepreneurs. And we were going like in US. It was a program organized by US Department of State, and they were taking us to visit all kinds of social enterprises. And I realized that the least interesting ones were the ones dedicated to education. I was kind of bored. And I had the feeling that I've seen this before. There's nothing new. I'm just going around the circles, and I saw myself bored by the topic that I was insanely passionate for my whole life. Like 16 years before, I was insanely passionate about education, and now I was bored by it. On the other hand, I was fascinated by such places as Ben & Jerry's, this activist company sold to Unilever, or a store in Washington, D.C. that was selling secondhand construction materials recuperated from demolitions. So I realized that there was a lot of aliveness outside of the educational system. And then I got to Mexico and met Gustavo. Gustavo is the one in the white shirt. He's a tremendous big picture thinker. And Gustavo would sign his emails with deprofessionalized educator, or no, intellectual, deprofessionalized intellectual. And I was intrigued by that. And I had some conversations with him. And at some point, he sent me an article he wrote about this professions and deprofessionalization. And it blew my mind. The article blew my mind. One of its ideas is this that you can see in quoted there, that dispossession is a precondition for a need. So I thought of myself as being that professional that is needed only because people don't know how to create their own learning environments and learning experiences and journeys. So I realized that learning is something, it's just like air. Everybody does it. Everybody should know how to do it. And I cannot see myself as a professional of learning, as an expert of learning in another way than somebody that's feeding on the on people not having their capacity to learn for themselves. This was another disruption. And the third disruption was when I was traveling to China, I realized how big is this system? And it's not about just education in Romania or education around the world. It's not about China or US. It's a whole system. China and US are just two sides of the same coin, and education and food and housing and all these, they're just part of the same system. And I was just overwhelmed by how big the system is and had no trust. I lost the trust that I can make an impact in this humongous machine. I always thought that if we change education, then this will attract a chain of other changes and the system can be fixed. But then, like traveling and seeing the world from many perspectives, from a big picture point of view, somehow, yeah, I felt that I need to break away from this, and I don't know where. I need to go on the moon or somewhere because this system is everywhere, and I need to escape it. This being said, I went back to Romania, and 2 years after I got there, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Alternative University. And at the same time, we closed it after 10 years. I was, of course, both sad, but also somehow I was happy that we closed it, because I thought that what was amazing about the Alternative University cannot be reproduced. We cannot, as adults, reproduce our experience for some other young people. Because what was amazing is that we created our own world out of our limitations and out of our ignorance and out of our brilliance and in our particular context. And this was amazing that we had that chance. So, but I thought it's important to tell the story of the Alternative University. Maybe some other young people will be inspired to do the same. And I also needed to make sense of what happened with Alternative University and my journey. I was all over the place. I didn't know what's my place. What should I do back in Romania? So what I needed to do was to write this book. So I got a project manager's job to gather some money so I can write a book. And so I did. And when I finished with the project management, I started a program of spending as little as I could possibly spend. So I was not eating out. I was leaving my wallet at home when I was going out. Cooked my own food. Did not buy clothes. Did not take taxis or Ubers. And I got to spend about 200 euros per month. That was the minimum that I could reach. It was a year of recording each and every spending I did. And it was a year of training in this frugality. But somehow, after a year, I didn't finish the book. So I needed more time. And somehow some projects came to me. like a very short projects, like a training or a speech or designing something. And I got to earn more money without even looking for it. And somehow, throughout the 7 years that passed, it so happened that mm, I didn't look for projects. They came to me mostly, with a few exceptions. And I got to live in a way that, so I worked for money for about 1 month a year on average. And I got to write the other 11 months or do something else. And what did I do? Aside from writing, I tried to create my zero waste home. So I did things like creating my own compost bin in the backyard of my apartment block. It took me a lot of time to do this. Um, then I bought jars and I found places where I can buy food in bulk and all that and learn to cook for myself. And then at some point we moved to a village, and this was a whole new adventure in terms of growing our own food and being zero waste. For example, I made four different toilets up to now, and it takes a time to make them and to manage them. uh, we are growing our own food, and we're trying to forage as much as possible and conserve it throughout the winter. For example, making majun from plums, like jam from plums. Um, so our preoccupation with being zero waste has expanded into also managing all these systems and uh, gathering nettles, for example, and cooking them. So not just writing. I didn't just write with my extra time that I won, but did all kinds of things like this. And also we build our own house. I'm just going to show you a little bit of a so you can see us putting shingles on the roof. Okay. So with my extra time, I did all kinds of things, toilets, houses, growing food, jams, and things like this. And the way I see it is that my biggest win in this journey was that I'm giving 1 month to the system, and I'm keeping 11 months to create another way, another culture around me. I gave up the idea that I can change the world and mm, that I'm going to have impact like in the larger system. But now I'm just content with knowing that on my square meter, on my just around me, uh, I'm trying to live in a different way, the way I think we should live. And I think the essence of this culture is going from human resource to co-owners of our workplaces, from voters to direct participants instead of voting once in 4 years. True participation would mean speaking up in a gathering and putting your hands to do things for the community, not just voting for somebody and waiting for them to do. And from consumer to creator, from having everything around you being made by somebody, you creating your own house, you creating your own food, and you being a creator of your environment. And this is somehow an expansion of what I emergent learning and all this thing that I've been pursuing about democratic education, deschooling society is just one facet of a different culture that I think I want to live in. And what I'm trying to do now is create this culture around me at a very small scale, but all at once. So I'm trying to go from Windows to Linux. I'm trying to live zero waste. I'm trying to grow my own food or just get myself out of the industrial food system. and so on. So this is a story about my unlearning journey around money. I'm confused. I'm still confused. I don't know what I'll keep from all these experiments. So I'm happy to open up and talk about it, see what resonates with you.
Thank you, Traian. This is super enjoyable for me to see the big picture of the long journey that you've been through and also the different nuances to the change. And I feel what strikes me is this sense of, yeah, the more you understand about the system, the more you're willing to go in your own personal practices and make changes and kind of see, okay, what does it really mean to be regenerative? So thank you so much for opening up and just sharing so openly your your very precious imperfect journey. As I understand it, it keeps evolving and going on. We have plenty of space for questions and reflections, so it would be great to hear a bit from everybody here. If you want to raise a question, simply unmute yourselves or maybe raise your hands so that we get a sense. And my first question, maybe to warm up, is what would make you get back into making more money? Is there anything like this? After all these 7 years of experimenting, how do you find your current relationship with money? And what are the different nuances there if you see ahead of yourself?
Well, I need to make more money because I want to go snowboarding. So there are some things that I gave up and I want to go back to. I don't feel that this is a good equilibrium, what I'm at right now, but I need to finish the book and finish our move to the village. So we have a little bit of stability, and then I'm gonna probably find a better equilibrium, a better balance. But it's I don't see myself ever again doing more than 3 months a year for money or for professional status, for glory. I need to keep it like 9 months a year. I need to keep it for myself.
And I have another follow-up question, and then I'll open it up. So please prepare your questions. What we were discussing before while preparing for this session is that there's a lot of discomfort that comes with this kind of life changes, right? Like we have to give up on a lot of, let's say, privileges, benefits, or maybe even things that we need in the first place so that we make room for new elements. And I'm curious, how was your journey through this lens? Like, how do you feel your relationship with discomfort has evolved? Or maybe what was challenging for you overall throughout the last 7 years in making this kind of shifts?
Well, I think that, like, for example, the journey trained me well to not crave for extraordinary comforts and stuff like this. So that the physical discomforts weren't the biggest issue, but I think it's you know, when there's some kind of shame or inadequacy coming up, where people don't know what you're doing and why you're doing. You're not among close friends that know about your journey. And you are in a situation, for example, you get an invitation. Let's go there. Let's eat there. And you have to say, I can afford it. I can go there. So it's navigating this thing about social status and the way it is associated, like money are associated with competence, and I can, whenever I'm not in my activist circles and among my close friends, for example, in my village, I can see that this is the currency. Like people scan you for how much money you have, and they put you in somewhere, and this is how they decide how to treat you. So this has been a challenge for me sometimes.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, Marta, go ahead.
Hey, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I hope you can hear me because the Wi-Fi is a bit shaky where I'm at. really brave of you to bring all of those sharings to this circle. And I wanted to sort of ask about something that you started to speak about, which is this aspect of relationships with people, because I can imagine that going on a journey like this and also changing your lifestyle so much can affect your relationships with people a lot. And now, since everybody's frozen on my screen, I doubt whether you can hear me.
I can hear
you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm just wondering, how did it affect your relationships with people, and also whether this was how tough it was to actually say no to all of those opportunities that help building relationships with people, such as going out for an event or going out for a coffee, where you have to make a decision that I cannot afford it or I don't want to afford it. And I'm just curious about your feeling around it, and if you saw any changes and shifts in your relationships with others.
Thank you. It's a very interesting question, and it's hard for me to answer because I've seen changes in the relationship with others, but they have all kinds of reasons, not just this. So, for example, when I was in Romania and being an entrepreneur in education, I had lots of let's say work relationships. So I was posting on Facebook, and my relationships were intermediated by my personal brand, and I was working or interacting with other personal brands, except very close people in my team. I think I had like 1,000 people that I would see on events and read about them on Facebook or LinkedIn. And what I did when I came back, I said that I'm not going to invest there anymore. So for the past 7 years, I didn't post on Facebook, and I let those relationships disappear. The many relationships that were kind of superficial, they disappeared, and I only stayed with the people that are very close by. They are not professional relationships; they're just friends, and we just enjoy spending time together and sharing our life, and not necessarily being in the same team or being in the same industry. And I wouldn't say that part of this shift was related to my this journey of mine with money, but I think I've heard like rumors or people saying about me that I'm a little bit off track, that they cannot recognize me, and yeah, probably that those relationships had to suffer, even though I did nothing in that direction. And well, as I was saying, there are things that I miss. I want to go kite surfing. I want to go snowboarding. But not enough so that I would need to change radically my lifestyle. I mean, I think I'll be continuing on this. Maybe at some point, if I'm gonna have children, maybe that's gonna change it. Maybe I'm gonna be afraid. But if I'll be alone, and I'll need to only take care about myself. I think it's gonna be pretty much the same.
Michelle, you want to go next?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, Corina. Yeah, bună ziua, Traian.
Salut.
Salut. Hi, I'm Michelle. And yes, my roots are from Romania. I live in Germany, in Frankfurt, Germany. I was born and raised here. So it's for me very, very, what can I say? It touches me a lot to see someone from Romania, where my roots are from, and being a change maker in education. And your story, it does a lot to me. So that's the first thing I want to say. And I have to say that when you showed, I think it was the last slide, it was so touching me that it gave me so much peace that I saw what you were doing, that I was like, wow, he's doing what, when I come out of the city and I feel like, wow, it was a long day, and I think in my mind, man, it would be better to be closer to nature and to do, to have your own garden, and exactly actually what you're in a way what you are doing, of course not exactly, but in a way. And then I see you, a living example, doing this. So it was for me like, wow. And my question is now, to give you a little bit of context, something like, what was your first step to have the courage to do this? How did you break through maybe you had fears, or like this thoughts that block you, and to go this way? And then also this question is also, and now when you are somewhere else, maybe in nature, and I don't know how far you are from a city or from the service that you were doing before. Maybe I can clarify about that, the second question, but maybe you also already get what I want to ask and say.
I think I'll need some clarification, but let me start with the first thing. So I think it was a gradual process. It's hard to say how it happened, but for example, when I left Romania, I imagined for this journey, I imagined that at all times I needed to have 2,000 euros set aside so that if anything happens, I can take a plane back, I can have some medical procedure or something. So I was very scared in a way of all the things that could happen. And I was also not very capable of traveling with little money, of connecting with people beyond anything like what you wear and where you're coming from and all that. But as time went by in this journey, I kind of learned these skills. I learned to feel safe in the world whenever I was being. And I somehow learned that, I don't know, the universe takes care of me. So many things happened that I did not predict, I could not predict, but somehow I survived them. So I realized that it's not in my control in the end. Everything good that happened not through my own will and taking care of everything, but actually through some other channels. So somehow I started to relax, and at the end of the journey, I was so proud of myself. For example, I was traveling in US, and I guess I had 65 days in US, and I only paid accommodation for 2 of them, and the rest I was going from one person to another. I was being hosted, uh, like maybe 1 or 2 days, not more than this. So this was a lot of help, that I got this easiness of being in the world, and this trust that wherever I am, this trust in people, that even I had a really nice moment with a older person in Thailand. I was walking on the street, and I don't know why this old man looked at me and started laughing, and I started laughing, and I didn't know why he was laughing, and it was just this moment, this like beautiful moment. And at that point, I felt that I can connect with anyone, and I have so much trust in other humans. So this was one aspect of it. I've been trained in these 2 years to be more at ease in the world. But then when I came back to Romania, I did all the mistakes. People that that traveled and that I spoke with, they all said it's very tough to come back. It's incredibly tough to come back. And I was like, nah, it's been okay. For me, it will be okay. And then when I came back, for 2 years, I did all the mistakes that I thought I wouldn't do. I went back to the alternative university and tried to save it. And I went back to the old projects that I was part of. And I had to learn the hard way that in none of these places, there was no longer my place. It was no longer my home. So it was a very tough process of letting go of my old identity, old place in the world, and accept that I have to create a new one. So that was super, super tough. And I'm still doing that. It's not over yet.
Thank you. Thank you, Traian. Mulțumesc frumos.
Cu plăcere.
Anyone else with any questions or reflections? We still have time.
I'm curious at this point of time, what do you think will make your life fulfilled?
At this point in time, I have to confess that I'm a little bit stressed because we started building another building here in the village, and I'm a bit overwhelmed by this. And what I dream about is just having time to do carpentry. So to work with wood and have all the time in the world to create things and not be rushed. And so even if I'm not working for money, so this house is the process of building, I'm not earning any money, but I still went back to this being too busy to enjoy life. So I have to fix this. Even if I'm free to choose whatever I do, I seem to choose working too hard and making commitments that are hard to reach. And this is another pattern that I need to somehow get rid of. But I would say carpentry.
And we have one question in the chat from Livio as well. As we are in an abundance masterclass, what is your personal definition of abundance?
Well, of course, in this period of my life, having time is like it's the best resource I could wish for. This is what abundance means to me: having time and loving relationships. I think with these two, I feel I live in an abundant world. No. And I think the place around me, because I am starting to take it for granted. So I live in a place that where nature is beautiful, and I love it. And I think this is another form of abundance, that I have beautiful nature around me.
I feel like flipping a bit the the setup of the conversation. I find that what happens when one of us, or maybe more of us, go upstream, right, and challenge different aspects of the system. We can never be fully out of the system, but still trying to decouple different elements, either money or food, or like going in different directions, as you also did. When you travel that far, what happens most often is that you become almost like a very interesting human to observe and learn from, right? Like there's almost like a very exotic experience to seeing that, oh, one of us has crossed the river on the other side. And how does it feel to see that they've made that leap of faith, that, journey to integrate the practice and all. And I'm curious, how do you see it through your eyes whenever you share your story? I know you've not shared your story in this way too many times already, so it's maybe a very early question to ask. But what would you like to ask us, those of us who maybe still ponder on the edge of should I jump or should I not? Should I make those personal transformations in my life or not? Like, what would you like to ask us? And maybe, yeah, if there's any gift you want to offer in this direction, just having gone through the journey yourself.
Actually, I'm very curious if there are more people that have this, I don't know, inclinations, that think about it, that did some experiments in this direction, and if anything that I shared resonates. So I'm very curious, people that they join this conversation. Where are they in their journey?
I think you're avoiding my question, Traian, but we can open it up.
No, I'm not.
to
Sorry,
see.
I'm not. I can come back to your question.
Part of it, yes, but I'm more than happy to open it up. So if anybody wants to share from their own practical, personal experiments. Yes, Marta, go ahead.
I most definitely do not have experiences that are anyhow similar to yours. I admire what you did, but I think my fear of uncertainty is definitely too high to be able to take myself on a journey like this. But I think what struck a chord is what you have been saying about abundance and how you find this abundance in the loving relationships. And I think also what I've been hearing when listening to you, I've heard a lot about community and doing things with the people and looking for those honest and authentic connections with the people. And I think that part I can relate to very much. And this is like a micro step, if I can compare to your journey, but something that I'm starting to practice is last year I invested in getting my own apartment, and I'm starting to open this apartment up to other people to use whenever they need. So many of my friends receive the keys and they are welcome to come in anytime they want. Currently, a friend of a friend who just needed a place to stay is staying there. And so it's not as brave and as big as what you did, but I also feel this very strong need to do more with the community and for people, and not really gather the goods and gather the material stuff for myself, because I don't believe that's how we should live. But at the same time, yeah, the uncertainty around not having any stability for me is at the moment at least too scary to go completely, unattached. But once you move completely to that village, please tell me where it is. On my next visit to Romania, I'm definitely passing by.
Michel?
Yes. I don't know even where to start, but Marta, thank you so much. It sounded so wonderful. What I can say is that I also feel I live with my wife in Germany. So, for example, last weekend we had just time for ourselves, which was wonderful. But it was beautiful. We had time to relax and all of these things, and we're working through the week, and it's wonderful. But one thing that I observe is that it's so sad when, in my perspective, and as I experience it, when every house is kind of like so shut, and every family, and we don't come together anymore. We are not cooperating anymore. We are not opening our doors anymore. We're not eating anymore at one table, long table. This, for example, like in Italy before. I'm not, but my roots are not from Italy, but I heard this concept, this tavola longa, where there are many people at the table. And, so yesterday I came from a project home, and we had guests, for example, and my friends from I'm not living directly in Frankfurt, I'm living outside. So they came to us, and I was like, yeah, this is how life should feel like having your friends all coming over on a Monday night. It's not just I'm waiting for a Saturday evening. Come on, like, what is this? It's like I'm waiting for a Sunday or Saturday evening to meet my friend, or checking my calendar if we can meet in 2 weeks. So this is where I want to escape from, kind of like, and what I try to create. So my journey was a lot, and especially during Corona and after Corona, I was a lot in nature. I was a lot of time by myself, but I kind of lost the equilibrium then to be in touch with the community that also wants to live in nature, having different concepts of life, living differently. Because actually, where the most of my friends are and were was, for example, just a simple example, in the co-working space in the city, where when I entered when I came from, I'm also laughing a little bit about myself now. Just when I came from the nature and the sheeps that I was chilling with, getting into the metro and going to the city and like, why am I going there? And then, of course, I realized because I want to connect to human beings that are in the kind of like same ecosystem. So my experience would be like, many times I was in nature and I was like, oh, it would be so nice to be here, but where are the people that also want to live there? But for this, I need to move. It's not here then. And this move, I didn't do it yet. And with my wife together. So it's very interesting. The new year, I don't have many projects yet planned. Many things are just running out. So it's a time for me to see, like nature, what do I let go? Where do I want to invest time? My wife is getting a new job now. So it's a very interesting time now. And now listening to you, I don't know if it made so much sense and it was in context, I hope, but just that was what came out of me.
Yeah, it made so much sense. And I think this is what in a way, I'm talking about. For example, when we're creating that community and we sit at that long table, I think this is creating that other culture, that free, fair, and alive culture. Or when Marta is sharing her apartment, she's defying the logic of how the system works. This transactional logic, you should charge money to people for living in your apartment and all that. And you're creating, with the resources you have, you're creating that bridge, that space of a different culture. And I think there's no point in comparing how much any of us does it, or it's like, it's just, I think it's important to encourage each other to create these bridges, to create a different culture, different way of living, where we are on our little square meter, and cultivate that place. And I think the more for me, getting my time, a part of my time out of the system was it was what made it possible. It was the critical element. And I think if any of us can take bit by bit, a little bit of time out of the system and keeping it free for whatever speaks to your heart, for things that really make sense for you, for things that are emergent and not planned and all that. I think the more you take time away from the system, chasing money and status and glory and all that, and you put it in this other regenerative basket, I think this is it. This is the game.
Thank you, Traian. We are slowly approaching the end of our hour together. Yeah, I'm curious if there's anything still bubbling up in the space, if anybody feels like either sharing something or asking a quick question, so that we see lots of hearts now. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think one thing we were, yes, is there, yes, Elena.
Yeah, sorry. Because there is a point that is really relevant also in my personal story, this concept of glory. My first experience was about 13 years in academic context. And I really feel now that I'm out of that since 10 years, this heaviness of working for glory, or in any case, working for a representation of each person in terms of academic brand. as you said, also this topic of relations into
yeah, in between brand and non-real person. And yeah, I moved 10 years ago from the big city, and also I feel this urgency to create a space in between myself and my family at that time, and this word that is quite yeah, is quite embracing you too much, I feel. And yeah, this was my start. And I don't know if this is an learning experience, but from my side to have this new opportunity outside the city create me an experience to learn new things. I think ordinary and also standard things, normal, common things. I know all my relatives and all my Nebru community now. And when I live in Milano 10 years ago, I really know no one in my building. So, for example, this is a very, very simple things, but, or for example, about sheep, now I know where they grow and how the milk is something natural. And my, how to say, urban previous experience really also create this gap. And so I think that from one side is to go outside the system, you're right, but also is also to understand that there are many systems. So my unlearning experience of my original system, let's say, open to myself opportunity to learn or relearn a variety of systems that now I choose to belong to. And so I don't know. I think that it's something that I wish you. And thank you for your story. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena. I think when
Thank
we
you,
were
Elena.
discussing what's the message of this story? Traian, I can offer one that comes to me now. It feels like this is the not so glorious yet very beautiful and meaningful story of jars and toilets and making your own house and putting our hands into it. And yeah, seeing the life affirming spirit of that and how it can transform oneself, and then the small places around us. Like I feel that's a life for me now, and I'm curious if you have another version of it, Traian, as a closure before we wrap up. Like, what was the message of this space for you personally, also opening up and sharing?
I didn't know what was the message. I didn't have a message. I just wanted to share these experiments and all the also all the doubt that comes with them. And it's not it's like I don't want to preach, hey, do this what I'm doing, because I'm not sure I'm. So there was no message, but what you said, like life affirming things. I feel that there's a whole range of life affirming things and moves that you can do, and um, this is what I'm taking from our conversation and my own story, that I that's the result of my journey, that I have parts of my life that are life affirming, alive. And yeah, one other thing is that I need, as a person, for my psychology, I need to keep the hope somehow. So I need to be doing something that keeps some form of hope that the world can be better. So clinging on to this hope is very important for me. So this what I'm doing allows me to not become cynical and say that this world is going to shit and everything is going to hell and it's all bad. But the opposite, that there is something to be done, and there is a reason to wake up, and I have something to build, and I can build a small corner of the world and do it beautifully. So I think this is behind all this attempt.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Traian, for opening up again. We really cherish your vulnerable bravery in sharing your story with us. And thank you everyone else for contributing, listening, allowing yourselves to receive whatever is relevant and meaningful for you in your own personal journeys from this storytelling practice. I'm pasting now in the chat 2 invitations, actually 1 invitation and 1 offering. One is the invitation to join us for the next Abundance Masterclass on November 19th. And we are actually joined by Helena Norberg-Hodge herself. If you've watched The Economics of Happiness, or maybe you stumbled upon Local Futures website, and now we are going to have the live version of this amazing, incredible elder who has been transforming and pioneering a lot of what it means to localize around the world, I feel. So this is a very beautiful space that we hope to share with all of you. And we are also sharing our resources corner, curated by members from the Abundance Fellowship Collective and the larger space. So maybe you find there something to go deeper and further into your own explorations and practices with regenerative economics. So these are the 2 notes on which we want to wrap up this space today. And yeah, thanks again for everything that you have brought in yourselves to this space.